My name is Charles Yearwood. I'm Senior Technical Officer with the Drainage Division, Ministry of Transport Works and Water Resources. The role of Drainage Division is predominantly for flood mitigation. But when you do flood mitigation, one expects we think not only in terms of mitigating floods, but also living with floods. Because many of the challenges in our country, floods has to do not only with the capacity to do the work in a 1 year or 2 year or 5 years, but to do work in series. So while we can carry out works that can mitigate or prevent flooding, we also prepare ourselves for flood responses. Every year, persons at the beginning of the year, and then as we creep into the beginning of hurricane season, persons who've experienced flooding or have known persons who've experienced flooding begin to get a bit of stress and concerns and anxiety about what the hurricane season will bring. We don't need to have a hurricane. We need to have convection rainfall so that you have rainfall in the afternoon that is not really targeted or identified in your evening weather channel. But you have then systems that you can see on the satellites, the red spots, the orange spots, the green spots. We know something is coming. So we are planning, we are implementing, we are monitoring, we are checking. And so for the hurricane season, the work that workers continue to do, last year, you see previously, they were cleaning drainage systems in areas where there's good solid waste collection. Those solid systems are not going to be filled or affected by high level of garbage, and they can continue for a number of years or so without requirement for cleaning. And then there's some areas that most persons know in communities, places where people dump regularly, illegally dumping, it's plastics, it's construction waste. Those require almost regular monitoring in areas, sometimes in the gullies and water courses, off the beaten track, next to roadways, even in the roadway.
Are you willing to respond to a call to help others following a disaster? Do you possess emergency skills that can be useful? Then the Department of Emergency Management needs you as it seeks to create a list of resource persons. Contact the DEM at 438-7575 Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. if you're interested in being included in an emergency response following a disaster. Barbados needs you to be a part of the recovery effort.
Tell me who a man spends his time with, and I'll tell you the type of man he is. Isn't it true that people become like the company they keep? I'm Chris Hurdle, clinical psychologist and certified life coach. Where do you spend most of your time? What is your emotional space like? Do you find yourself most often among people who are negative, naysayers, doom and gloom, or fearmongers? Or do you find yourself mostly among people who are positive, optimistic, calm, collected, and reassuring, who exude confidence? What is your emotional space like? Be intentional. You are the pilot of your life.
After rainfall and the rain touching the earth and becomes runoff, how do we collect, convey, move that from a spot and dispose it somewhere else? There are some known flood hotspots. Whether they are developments that were completed settlements way past our time, before our grandparents' times, or recently we had subdivisions built 40, 50 years ago and they flood now. Some of the locations were in areas where there were probably flooding or no flooding at all. But you have concrete increase. You see, you live wherever you live, you look around, people continue to expand. They're building new houses, so it's galvanized, it's concrete. Those areas allow for more runoff. The earth is not there to take any of it. And even where you have lawns and gardens, they're not regularly worked up. So they're bound. Your children play on the ground, places park the cars. it compacts the area, and then there's very little infiltration, and the rest run onto the road. How we do it, we see it as you travel. You might recognize it. There are drains, there are roadways, there are slippers, there are outfalls, there are water courses. You see water running along them. That's where we take water. But it is unsafe to have water ponding on the road. And our work then is to ensure that those areas provided for the collection and conveyance of stormwater is void of garbage and waste and construction, whatever there is in it, so that it takes up more water and take the water off faster. That said, every time the rain falls, it is not the same volume of rain. What's important one was that when you have a lot of rain, in terms of measurement, and not on what the visual, that's a gut feeling, but we measure. That's what the Met Office does. And we use those numbers over time, 100 years of rainfall, to assess how we determine the size of culverts and drains and the like. And we know that, Bridgetown, for example, an old city, old drains built over 150 years, 100 years old, we need to ensure that those drains are clean and that the openings to them are wide enough so that you can get the water off.